Greetings and welcome once more to another episode of Sonic Odyssey, the music video channel that gives you the last 5 decades or so of music in review and discussion format. Before we dive into today's topic, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. Firstly, please be sure to click that thumbs up button, the like button, so the YouTube algorithm will help get the video out to more viewers. Also consider sharing the video by clicking the share button, and there you'll see that you can share the video with your friends through Facebook, Twitter, and many other social media networks. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel, and you can also consider clicking the little bell icon next to the word subscribe, and then you'll be notified each time I post a new video. Finally, I would humbly ask you to consider clicking the link for my Patreon page. There's a link in the show description right below the video, and there you'll be able to see the different tiers that are available to help support the channel. You can have your name listed in the end credits of each video, and you can even go so far as to select an album for me to review. That's the housekeeping out of the way. Let's get to the topic today. Today we're going to be listening to and looking at a band from Leipzig, Germany, known as Tension. Tension was formed in 2015 by vocalist Mike and guitarist Phil. The rest of the band came from 2 other bands, those being Toxic Beast and Germany's Prowler. And thusly, the twin guitar quintet was born, known as Tension. For purposes of the recordings they've done so far, Tension is Mike on vocals, Phil on guitar, Clemens on guitar, Conrad on bass, and Jonas on drums. I apologize that I don't have last names to attach to those first names, but in my thorough due diligence of researching for this review, I was unable to get their last names, so just have to refer to them by their first names. No disrespect intended. The success of their 2017 self-titled EP ultimately led to them playing more locally and eventually going on tour with bands such as Finland's Angel Witch, and also seeing them tour with the likes of Satan, Manila Road, and Tigers of Pantang in 2019. Though I don't have the exact timeline for the recording of the album discussion today, their debut LP, Decay, I imagine it was recorded sometime during 2020 and 2021, as it was only released this year in January of 2022. Sonically, they pull heavily on the first wave of Swedish heavy metal sounds from such bands as Gotham City, Heavy Load, Parasite, and Stitch, as well as also quite clearly being influenced by the new wave of British heavy metal with such acts as Satan and, most obviously, as can be heard in the music, Iron Maiden, most specifically the Paul Di'Anno years, where Paul Di'Anno was the lead vocalist in the very early years of Iron Maiden. So let's get a taste, an oral taste of what Decay sounds like and what Tension brings to the table. And to do that, we'll take a little bit of a listen to the opening of the 6th track from the album, entitled Black Knight. can be heard in the snippet I just played, the two guitars work together marvelously, with one providing a kind of rhythmic lead and the other a more traditional rhythm background. Meanwhile, bassist Conrad is doing a spectacular job on the fretboard, and drummer Jonas keeps the sound strong and solid, providing a great foundation for Mike's vocals to lay an almost Danzig-like belt upon. The new wave of British heavy metal and first wave of Swedish heavy metal sounds are readily apparent in their music, but this is not to their detriment. Rather, they bring a renewed and reborn sense of joy and creativity to their sound. Like the Diano years of Iron Maiden, there's also a slight touch of punk rock that comes through in the sonic soundscape. So let's take another bit of a listen from the album, and this time we'll listen to a snippet taken from the fourth track entitled Cosmic Gaze.
Cosmic gaze, surrounding my soul. Cosmic gaze, into the black hole.
I took this snippet of the song specifically because I wanted to shine the light a little bit more clearly on the tremendous noodling of Conrad's bass playing. Though we're also treated to small leads from both Phil and Clemens, and Mike does a marvelous job on vocals, and again, the drumming of Jonas is solid and strong throughout. In truth, I don't mean to say this carelessly or in seemingly bad intent, as I believe it is a marvelous record, but it's also true that Tension is, to an extent, merely bringing forward a sonic soundscape that is greatly indebted to their predecessors. Phil and Clemens are truly gifted musicians and play fantastically with and against each other, and both provide ripping leads throughout. Their playing is just marvelous, and I can't sing the praises of bassist Conrad strongly enough. He is incredible on the bass throughout the entire album and provides marvelous fret work and is a strong component of what makes this album so enjoyable for me. Mike has a solid vocal performance, and even though he may be a tad limited in his range, he does a great job with it. And as I stated before, Jonas's drumming is solid throughout. But on this debut, we're clearly getting a band that is wearing their influences proudly on their sleeves. For that reason, I give Decay by Tension in 2022 3.75 stars out of 5. I feel it's a strong score and a good score for this album. I hesitated to go any higher for a couple of reasons. Firstly, let me state this. I rarely get overly personal in reviewing the albums, but I'm going to here. I really enjoy this album. I think it's a fantastic metal, heavy metal, traditional heavy metal album. It has great replayability. I listen to this album more than 20 times probably preparing for this review, and so I have a great affinity and liking for the quality of all the songs on the album. There's not a track that I don't enjoy, nor a track that I think should have been cut or removed. It's, you know, it's all quite good. But I do have a couple of critiques. Both the first track, Open the Gates, and the closing track, Earth Crisis, begin with kind of a white noise sound. And in the case of the first song, this opening white noise goes on for roughly 47 seconds before the song properly begins. And in the case of the closing track of the album, the white noise goes on for roughly 65 seconds before anything resembling musical instrumentation begins to come up, and that goes for another 40 seconds before the song begins to play, you know, as intended. And I find that this is the greatest detriment to the album. It takes away from what is otherwise, in my opinion, truly an incredibly great listen, and one that I can't recommend strongly enough that you consider checking out if you enjoy traditional heavy metal. Both songs that I've referred to rock, and they rock hard, and they're marvelous pieces of music, but there's no reason sonically or lyrically to have these extended white noise passages precede the music itself. And so I have to say that that is the one slight detraction. There could be an argument about some of the backing vocals, maybe a little too much in the background. Maybe they could have been pushed a little bit further up in the mix. But that's an argument that I don't really feel too strongly about. You know, I think that these songs will play fantastically live and provide great sing-along for the audience, but the background vocals on some of the tracks are just a little too timid in their placement and usage. They could have been pushed a little bit further forward. That being said, what we have here is a fantastic debut album from a band that is still quite young and can hopefully only improve. They've shown us tremendous skill and musicianship on their debut LP, and we can only hope that they will bring that talent and skill to a more independent and personal direction in their next effort, their sophomore release, and hopefully we won't have to wait 5 years for their sophomore release to come out, because, as I said, quite frankly, I personally am just enamored of this album. I feel it's really strong, and I give it that 3.75 out of 5 stars with a bit of an unsettled feeling. I wish that I could give it a higher score, but darn it, those white noise parts really are a little bit too much of a distraction, and otherwise it is a brilliant and marvelous listen, and I highly recommend that you check out Decay by Tension from January of 2022. With that being said, I thank you for your time and attention. I would ask you again once more to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and consider visiting the Patreon page. You can also see in the show description below there's a link to my home page on YouTube, so you can check out the other videos that I've produced if you're new to the channel. And until next time, peace, be well. Until next time, bye.